While a lot of people are already upset with the MSRP of the RTX 4080 being $1,200, it's looking like, according to early listings, and this is at Micro Center, that we could be seeing models of the RTX 4080 for up to $1,549 US. You heard me right, that is only $50 below the MSRP of the RTX 4090. Now, why do board partners think they can get away with that? Well, I mean, first of all, I was already saying all along that they've left such a wide price gap between the 4080 and the 4090 that we will likely see board partners take advantage of that and charge hundreds of dollars more for the premium coolers. But then also the fact that the 4090s are still kind of out of stock other than, you know, the inflated scalper type pricing, then that leaves even more room for this type of pricing, which is bad. But anyway, what are we seeing here? Overall, it's looking like there is a screenshot coming from Micro Center, which again, Micro Center tends to be better pricing than a lot of other places. So this is apparently not loading in. Great, so when I click the image in a live video, that's just what we get. But the point is, we do have them listed here in this WCCF Tech article, and I link all of my sources in the description of the video. The point is, we do see models for MSRP, okay? So Asus Tough model is MSRP, but then they have their Tough OC model. Now this is the most egregious one here. Like, let's zoom in here. Okay, there's the Asus Tough, and then the Asus Tough OC is $1,500 compared to $1,200. That is a $300 pricing premium, and usually OC models are just like a 3% factory overclock or something like that. Now, maybe there's something else happening here, but I guarantee you there is nothing justifying this price difference other than if they just sell the cheap model and then, you know, once it's sold out, hardly produce any of those, make all of the expensive ones, and as long as supply is constrained, at least around launch, I think we'll be seeing a lot more of these expensive versions rather than the cheaper ones. I think that's what we're going to see. And then if you want your ROG Strix OC model, that is that $1,500 and $1,549.99. What a deal. Saves you $50 compared to the MSRP RTX 4090. But guys, I mean, there's no way, no matter how good the cooler is, that this gets anywhere near the performance of an RTX 4090, given the specs that we've seen for the 4080. Anyway, Gigabyte Eagle is going to be available at $1,200, and then their Eagle OC model is a more reasonable $40 bump. That's more typical to what we'd see. Their gaming OC model getting $1,269, so again, a 69 nice markup over the whatever, I can't speak this morning, you get the idea. And then their RS Master is at $1,349. So it's looking like Asus is a particularly egregious on their pricing for their OC'd coolers. MSI Ventus looks like coming in at $1,280 with the Gaming X Trio at $1,324 and Supreme X at $1,400. The PNY or Peony XLR8 Verto at $1,200, so we do see an MSRP model from them. Zotac Trinity at MSRP and Zotac Amp Aero coming in at $1,400. So again, it is looking like we are seeing AIB partners take advantage of that wide pricing gap between the 4080 and the 4090, because again, when there's only like a $100 price gap, you can't charge so much more that you're into the next pricing tier. But when you put this large pricing gap between tiers, there's lots of rooms for this kind of shenanigans, especially when the 4090 is already being you get the idea. It's out of stock and scalped anyway. Now anyway, speaking of the 4090, how about its burning up connectors? Well, Igor's lab has more information for us. It's looking like there are two different suppliers for the actual pin. And these are not created equal. It looks like we have one made by Astron and one made by NTK. And you can see here, as well as in other screenshots, that there are absolutely differences in this design. I believe one of them uses one spring versus two, and in other words, it's just very different. It's saying like subjective testing it seems like the plug from NTK latches better, both in terms of tactile feel and slight acoustic clicking noise. It's also easier to detach, which definitely increases usability and operational reliability. Now, and again, he's saying another difference is in the spring contacts used. Astron uses spring contacts with 2 slots and NTK only 1. So there's also some other differences. This Igor's lab article is quite in-depth here, so I do recommend checking the sources in the description, taking a look at this if you're interested. But basically, there's still no confirmed answer to this problem, but it seems like Igor is at least speculating that the Astron version is inferior to NTK. Now, to be clear, both of these are showing up in the official NVIDIA adapter. They have multiple suppliers. Now, since we've also seen issues with at least some reports of actual native PCIe Gen 5 power connectors coming from a native power supply, not just the adapters burning up as well, it wouldn't surprise me if these are also the suppliers for some of the power supply, the connectors used by those power supply companies. But again, that's kind of speculation on my part. Here's more, again, looking at the differences. So again, basically, we're confirming there are different versions here. Igor seems to feel like the NTK version is better. But like I said, we still do not have a 100% confirmed reason or solution to this problem. Hopefully we'll get that from NVIDIA at some point. Now let's jump over to some AMD information. So there were some slides posted originally by a Japanese website, ASCII. However, this article has been taken down on the original source, but this is the internet. Once something's up there, people have it, right? So we're still seeing this information available on videocards.com. And these seem to be slides where AMD is detailing more about their Infinity fabric on their upcoming, their Infinity links between Navi 31 MCDs and GCDs. And this is for their new upcoming Ryzen, it's not Ryzen, geez, RX 7000 RDNA 3 GPUs. Guys, I think it's a problem that their Ryzens and Radeons are both on the 7000 series right now, guys. That is going to be confusing. Easy to misspeak, and for people who don't follow all of this stuff, it's going to be even more confusing. But that's kind of beside the point here. What is the point is that they're talking about how, since they moved to the MCDs and GCDs, so it's not a single on-die Infinity cache anymore, there is a latency penalty to that. So they talk a little bit about how they're dealing with that. So one thing is the Infinity links are operating at 9.2 gigabits per second with high-performance fan-out, providing almost 10 times the bandwidth density of the IFOP links used in Ryzen and EPYC. So compared to their CPUs, which have a similar, Infinity fabric kind of idea, it's looking like the Infinity links on the new GPUs are offering 10 times the bandwidth density, which is interesting. Now, they also talk about the Infinity fan-out links. Let me go over out of your way here. It says the Infinity Link chiplet interface costs a modest amount of latency versus on die. So they are admitting that moving it off die does increase latency, which should hopefully be kind of obvious. And they say we eliminate this latency with higher clock rates. The base Infinity fabric clock is increased by 43%. And the GFX, I guess like the graphics game clock, is increased by 18%. And the common case of Infinity cache hit is about 10% lower latency on Navi 31. So basically they're saying that despite there being increased latency moving off the die, they've accounted for that and are actually saying that compared to Navi 21, which is their previous generation of GPUs, that they've actually decreased the latency by 10%. It has 10% lower latency on the new design, which is good to hear. Here they're talking about the high performance fan out, 25 wires on organic substrate. But this is getting a little bit technical, I think, for my channel. But again, interesting stuff, and overall nice to see a little bit about how they're doing this, moving to the kind of the chiplet design and everything. So now they are talking about 30% higher static timing analysis compared to RDNA 2, but as this videocards.com article is pointing out, if we look at the actual game clocks and boost clocks advertised between RDNA 2 and RDNA 3, it's more like a 10% increase. So I don't know. We'll see exactly what goes with all this. Again, this information appears to probably still be under embargo given that it was taken down, but we will probably hear more about this as we get closer to the actual launch. Now, how about some more information about some processors? But we would have to rely on some machine learning translation here since I don't speak Chinese. Now, the videocards.com article has already done that, so excuse some translation detail, issues here. But what this is looking at is some upcoming information for a Raptor Lake refresh. That's a new Intel CPU, and AMD's Ryzen 7000 X3D chips. Some more information on that as well. Now, this is coming from the ECSM official, Enthusiastic Citizen, and he has had a lot of leaks about hardware come out correctly in the past. And I think he seems to have contacts kind of maybe within the supply chain, that kind of a thing. So he's saying that next year's CPU battlefield will continue with the Raptor Lake versus Zen 4, but there are some new ones. First of all, we'll be seeing a 13900KS coming from Intel, and so that's not too surprising. We saw this last generation as well, so a super, super high-end binned version of the 13900K with the S on it for higher clock speeds, and we'll be seeing AMD coming with Zen 4 X3D. Saying that this will be unveiled in the middle and late of 2023 H1. So we're seeing in the first half, but middle and late of the first half of next year. And it says, and the toothpaste will be launched earlier. Now, I think he's referring to the Intel chip here, and I'm assuming this is a machine learning translation and not that Intel is going to be branding their 13900KS as toothpaste. But anyway, and there is no specific time yet. However, X3D has only heard of a 6 to 8 core version, and there is no news about the higher version. Now, with the previous generation of X3D chips, we only saw it on the 8-core version. We saw a 5800 X3D. Now, this is saying 6/8. I would be really interested if there was a 6-core version. I wouldn't be surprised if we only saw 8 cores again, especially given the naming scheme that AMD went with their 7700X, leaving room for a 7800 X3D to more clearly distinguish between the 3D gaming chip. And also for gaming, which is what this is really targeting, 8 cores is plenty. Anyway, so there's no news about a higher version, so he's saying he's not hearing about, like a 12 or 16 core version or anything like that. Saying AMD A620 may have to wait until Q2 still lock on the CPU OC. Then there will be a desktop AM5 APU later, but the memory will only have DDR5 JDC 4800, and it is not ruled out that there will be enhanced modules. So interesting, AM5 APU coming later with that memory. Currently, there are 2 models of 8-core and 6-core. No retail news though. Then in the middle of late 2023, Q3, the toothpaste will have RPL refresh. Is Intel the toothpaste? The main frequency will be 0.1G to 0.2G and higher, and the number of cores will remain unchanged. As for ARL and Zen 5, that's still coming in 2024 second half. All right, so interesting stuff. None of this is too surprising, although he at least throws some dates on there and some information about, I think some people had speculated that the 3D Vcache versions would start coming in with higher core counts or maybe like the whole lineup. And according to at least his information, that does not appear to be the case. Now, speaking of CPUs like the 13900K, there's an interesting article over at Tech Power Up that I'll link in my description, where they investigate in 53 games whether having E-cores enabled or disabled matters, which games it matters in, and by how much. Now, basically, check out the full review, but a summary is basically that having E-cores enabled helps in some games, hurts in others, and it's not always predictable, whether it will help or hurt. And when you're GPU limited, it doesn't matter much anyway, and the differences are rather small, usually nothing more than 10% and usually less than that. So it sounds to me like if you have your 13900K for gaming and you're wondering should you disable your E-cores, sounds like if you know which specific games, and take a look at this 53 game benchmark to have a look, maybe you know specific games where it would help to disable them. But overall, it sounds like you could probably just leave them enabled and not worry too much about it unless you're chasing that last few percentage points in CPU limited situations. Now, interesting GPU news coming out in this video cards article. We're talking about MTT S80, which is a Chinese gaming GPU going on sale, but they're only bundling it with motherboards. Now, also, I think this is only going on sale in China and probably will stay that way. Now, I'm wondering if they're only bundling it with motherboards because they have limited like driver compatibility and just want to make sure you have it on a board that they can actually support. And again, speaking of driver compatibility, I believe that they're only claiming that there's optimization for a few games, including Crossfire, League of Legends, Diablo 3, Minecraft, or Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 3. And there's no word on international support for the drivers or software. So for most of my audience, this is really just more interesting news that we're seeing a Chinese gaming GPU coming out here. Now, I will also speculate that I'm wondering how original this GPU is. It certainly could be, but it seems like the history behind this company is that it was started up very recently by an ex-Nvidia employee, and this claims to have some amount of CUDA support. And so in general, I'm wondering if there's any stolen IP going on here. That's from Nvidia. That's personally just speculation here, but anyway, it'll be interesting if we see another GPU vendor get into the market, although currently this seems to be a Chinese exclusive, and I would seriously worry about the driver support. They're also not specifying which version of DirectX it supports. It just says it supports DirectX and OpenGL APIs. Anyway, speaking of GPU models, let's run through some of these real quick. We're seeing Galax GeForce RTX 4090 HOF claiming 20 world records, according to BenchLife. So, hey, look at those. They're big numbers. Now, this is the board that has the two power connectors instead of just one. So this one is really designed for those crazy record-breaking type explorations rather than needing that for a normal use case. We're also seeing Galax launch the RTX 4090 Boomstar. So if you're interested in this type of style on your RTX 4090, there you go. That's quite the flashy little stand they've got going on there. Anyway, interesting stuff. Yeston is launching an RTX 4090 here, and I believe this is Yeston's first like ultra high-end GPU. So interesting stuff there. Looks a little more restrained. Isn't Yeston the one that has the weird like cats and plants and things on theirs? I don't know. This one doesn't look like that. In fact, reporting here that it's just a copy of the Gainward Phantom series. So there you go. And on the AMD side of the GPU designs and whatnot, we're seeing PowerColor teasing their next-gen Radeon RX 7900 Hellhound custom graphics cards, dual 8-pin connector, and triple fan design. This looks like some blue lighting scheme, and then there's the little Hellhound logo going on there. I don't know if we get any other pictures than that. Looks like just that, but hey, looks kind of nice from what we can see. And it looks like Asus is prepping an AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX and 7900 XT ROG Strix custom graphics cards too. Let's hope that their pricing isn't $1,550. Anyway, this is coming from an ECC filing that I guess is being noticed, where they're filing on those naming schemes, but we're not actually seeing these models revealed or anything like that, so we'll see what comes of it. Now, Nvidia does have a new GPU driver as of November 10th, so a few days old news by the time I'm getting it to you, but it looks like this is mostly a game-ready driver for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, offering some improved stability and image corruption issues solved, and supports DLSS Super Resolution and Reflex. Also, interesting note, I've reported on this before, but it's getting some more details shown off, that apparently Skyrim is getting a DLSS FSR XeSS mod, and a lot of the idea behind this is to make it better for VR. Now, what's so interesting about this to me is just that these unlike FSR 1.0, which is easy to mod into games, technologies like FSR 2.x or DLSS 2 or XeSS require deeper integration into the game engine. They need access to motion vectors and things like that. So nobody really thought they'd be modded into games. At least I didn't think, at least it would be easy to mod them into games that didn't have any kind of built-in support for that. This would need to be something done by the actual game developers. However, it's getting shown off here as actually being up and running, but it's not fully released yet. And it looks like he's kind of wanting to wait for the VR version to be working before it's released. So we'll have to wait to get our hands on it. But anyway, interesting stuff. We'll see what happens. It would be cool if other games could get patched with this. And it also looks like you could use DLAA rather than increasing performance. It could be a better TAA solution than the one built into the game. Another quick note, we're seeing DirectX Vulkan DXVK 2.0, improving performance, adding various fixes through Vulkan 1.3 graphics drivers. And we are seeing NVIDIA's frame generation tech benchmarked using XeSS and AMD FSR pipelines rather than using DLSS pipeline. Now, this seems to have surprised some people. This article is published by Igor's lab, but I think that's by people who are being confused by the poor naming scheme of NVIDIA's frame generation technology, because it's not DLSS. They're just using that as branding. Frame generation isn't an upscaling technique, so of course you could use frame generation without any upscaling at all, or you could use XeSS or FSR 2.0 and then just use frame generation from there. All the frame generation is really doing is just holding a future frame to let you kind of interpolate one in between. Anyway, this video is getting long. I've got to go. So there's that. I hope all of you have an excellent day.